See, Rusty Nails, Sully here, and of course, I'm always fond when we can get leadership coaches, executive coaches, authors, and this time, a friend of the show, Paul Epstein, who's a former NFL and NBA business executive. I met at a speaking conference in Nashville just recently, who's written the book, The Power of Playing Offense, and look who joins us in studio. Where do you live, by the way?
I'm in LA.
You're
Hop,
close.
skip, and a jump away.
You're close. Okay, so talk to us first about your life in the world of sports.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So look, when you're 5'9" and a $180, you ain't gonna make the field or the court or the ice. So I was the boardroom guy, and I realized that very early. So from an entry level of selling tickets, literally my family thought I was the guy with the sideways visor behind the ticket booth. That was not me, but I was the boiler room sales guy. I was pumping out 200 calls for teams that needed help to put butts in seats. So I worked for the Clippers. Oh, but why not the Lakers? Because they don't need that, right? So that's how I got my teeth cut. A couple years later, end up managing the sales team that I once started in, still in Staples Center, still at the Clippers. Then head out to New Orleans, the Hornets, about to lose the team. The then commissioner, David Stern, says, hit this quota or else we're permanently moving the team. Got to be a part of a very purpose-driven movement, the I'm In campaign, as we called it, and that's what saved the franchise. Hop over to the Sacramento Kings, and that was navigating a corporate culture during an NBA lockout. So again, you notice a trend here. I tend to walk through fires, right? Go out to New York.
So it's almost like a turnaround. You're like a turnaround expert in that business.
Very much, very much. And then New York, get in the NFL league office, oversee revenue for the Super Bowl. My last stop, which was the most fulfilling by far, head of sales, San Francisco 49ers, open up Levi's Stadium. And that had the high of highs, and I also got to experience this little thing called Colin Kaepernick kneeling and having to face our fans the morning after. So again, I keep on repeating these things that it was just a dream come true in the sense of just a kid in a candy store. So you dive into the dream world. That's it.
So let's fast forward. You went from that to deciding, hey, I could talk about this, and you became an author. I think you became an author first, a keynote speaker second, or was it vice versa?
Speaking first.
Oh, no kidding.
But now, I mean, hey, this was all a byproduct of just really the culmination of a 15-year journey and pouring my blood, sweat, and tears into that thing.
So your message was always about purpose and leadership
No doubt.
and culture and playing offense.
Yes.
Right? Weren't those the four tenets of your basically everything you're doing?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So when I was at the Niners, I had a life-changing experience. One of those typical ho-hum leadership retreats. I go off-site for 2 days. I find my why. I tap into my core values, and I commit to making massive life decisions through that lens.
So what happened? What was specifically, what was your why?
So my why is to inspire purpose in others so they can play offense in life. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But one of the core values, the one I hold the most near and dear to my heart, is impact. And so I never thought that I would get off this treadmill, this 15-year journey of nothing was broken. I wasn't trying to fix a thing. But when I said, where can I create the greatest impact? Inside of these four walls, whether the Niners, the sports industry, or beyond. And at that point, the Jerry Maguire decision became one of the easiest of my life because I now just had a lens and a filter. That's the power of purpose.
Right. And with that, how did you translate that to helping others? Because you basically turned into to an influencer. You turned into an executive coach de facto.
Better than that, when I was at the Niners, they called me the why coach. So what happened is I go to this retreat. First day back in the office, my team thinks that I drank some special punch or Kool-Aid, right? Because it's just this radiating level of energy. And they said, what happened at the retreat? And I told them, and that was that. But then the next day, one person comes over to me and says, hey, you think you could do that for me? And then the next day, another person, 1 led to 2, led to 5, led to 10. It got close to 50 over the course of months of coaching individuals from players to front office to find their why. And more importantly, activate it. Because it's one thing otherwise just to sugar high their words on a wall. How do you apply it on Monday morning? And so basically my passion project of being a why coach overtook my day job.
Don't you answer, what'll I shoot at if I don't have a target? Right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's the lens.
His name is Paul Epstein, by the way. He is the author of this book here, The Power of Playing Offense. And you can certainly go to powerofplayingoffense.com or I think it's Playmakers od.com, is that what Playmaker? Did I get that right? I think we have it. Anyway, we'll put all the websites up, up on our website. But talk about culture. Culture is a big piece of this.
It's a massive piece.
It's one of the best parts of your book and reading through it.
Yeah, frankly, and look, I think especially in a time like now, we're still digging out of this pandemic. You hear about the burnout, the fatigue. So if you could tap into the locker room of business, if you will. Every company is a locker room to me.
Yeah.
And I assess the health of the locker room. The way I think about health is, all right, we as leaders, we set the tone for culture. Culture sets the tone for people. People drive the performance of the business, and they all equally fuel the health of the team. So the good news is it starts with leadership, and not just positional leadership, because then 10% of the world are leaders, 90% are followers. That's kind of depressing. I'd rather position leadership as, before you lead others, you must first lead yourself. And you don't need a title to lead yourself.
Yeah.
So then fast forward to culture. All right, culture. You typically ask any consultant that advises on culture, and they'll tell you it's about the top down, it's about the C-suite. I actually fundamentally disagree. I think that's half of the equation, but I believe that all culture is local. And here's my litmus test. If you were to parachute into a culture, I've worked with an airline that has 100,000 employees, and I always get asked what was their culture. And I say, I can't answer yet. Who's the leader? What department? What location? What floor of the building? That's the culture. Because the way this works is floor 5, great culture, great leader, we're high-fiving. Floor 6, toxic, watch out, boss is around the corner. That might be the same department in the same company, but what we don't realize is every leader has a weather system. When you walk in the room, you warm it up or you cool it off. The problem is most of us aren't even aware what our temperature is.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When you talk about everywhere you went, you were one step from stepping in and smearing it in the carpet because of the circumstances that were going on. How much of that was circumstance that made you successful there, and how much was you just playing offense, as you say in your book?
100%. I would not have landed on this had I not walked through the fires that I've been through. So check this out. You couldn't even magically wave a wand. Like, all right, we're all sports fans here. If you root for any team, just pick it blindfolded out of a hat, and you say, I'm going to root for you for 15 years. How many years do you think they make the playoffs? The range would be 4 to 8 to 10. Like, you're going to make more than once, but probably not all the years.
Yeah.
I worked in sports 15 years, 1 playoff experience. So I was always, quote unquote, selling the dog, if you will, to use those types of terms. And so they called me almost like the black cat of the industry, right? Like, here comes Paul. And it's like, hey, look, we're going to generate a ton of revenue, but it's going to be in very challenging circumstances. So look, all of this to say that I now realize when it comes to performance, 2 types of people: those that play offense, those that play defense. The difference being defense, they're on their heels. Offense, on our toes. Defense, external circumstances and market always dictate their terms, their attitude, their mindset, versus offense, you take control of your future because of the purpose, the passion, and you just always have this play to win mentality. And I don't think that's a cliche, because we all know people, everybody listening in right now, you know somebody that always plays not to lose. And then you know somebody that could have the same circumstances, but they play to win. And that's just the way the world works. And that was the top lesson that I learned off observing whether athletes or business execs in the sports world, offense versus defense, you get to choose.
You know, as we're coming out of this pandemic, right, and this affected, it's a lot like the Great Recession, whereby people, we see this Great Resignation. Same thing happened in the Great Recession.
For sure.
Whereby people reinvented themselves, either started businesses or they went and got educated. Same exact thing is happening right now. And I think people right now, the reason it happened now is because people are reassessing their life choices. How important do you think the power playing offense is into our culture 2.0 as we get through this pandemic? We're going into a whole new world here. I mean, even your business to speaking business is now a thing called parallel business, where you're doing live events and a parallel live stream event. How do you assess that?
100%. And I'm glad you brought that up, because while I always would have fallen on the sword for the spirit of playing offense, I believe it is infinitely more important today than it was pre-pandemic. The reason is we're all hard chargers. We're all high achievers. We're all hustling. And we're in this quote unquote hamster wheel, whatever other cliche you want to throw out there, but we're just sprinting and we never stop. And then in March of 2020, it was a forced timeout in life. And so that timeout causes reflection. Reflection on the inside about who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? Why do I do what I do? Do I feel a part of something bigger than myself? And that's where things like impact and legacy and purpose come up.
Yeah.
Those were buzzwords a couple years ago. Now it's a fundamental way of life. And so, look, pandemic brought a lot of negative things. The positive is the internal reflection that has landed on purpose.
Paul Epstein for president. Come on. The power of playing offense. You go to powerofplayingoffense.com. Come back with us someday, man.
Anytime.
Fantastic. Paul, thanks so much. All right, bigbizshow.com. More Big Biz coming up. There's his website. Check it out. We'll see you in a minute.